Welcome back to the castle. We're here for the second phase, day 2 effectively, although we'll probably be doing most of this across a few days. We have another set of steps to take to build the miniature bowling alley, and I just want to show you where we're at right now and what we're doing today. So here we go. This is where we stand right now. We've got our supports in place, our cross braces are in place. We also have some additional, I used the leftover 18-inch segments of the 2x6s to make additional bracing and screw points for the plywood. Speaking of plywood, that is what we're doing today. So here is the plywood that I purchased for this. I've got two thicknesses. I've got 3/8 inch thicknesses, and those are 4x4 sheets of plywood. I've got 4 of those, and then on the back side here, I've got two half-inch thick plywood sheets. So what I'm going to do, and the plan is, I'm going to be cutting this 4x4 sheet. You see I've already got a mark on it already. I've got my level off to the side as well. This is a 30-inch piece that we're going to be using. We're going to be using the right side here. This is going to be the base for the lane, and I'm going to be cutting 4 of those segments out of 4 by 30 inches, and we're going to start here and just lay them all the way down and screw them into place. And then on top of that, we're then going to cut 21-inch segments out of the half-inch thick OSB, the plywood, and we're going to cut 21-inch wide segments of that and then screw that on top of the plywood. And so what will happen basically is this 3/8 inch sheet is going to double as not just a base, but it's also going to be the surfaces for the gutters. And then the half-inch is going to be the sub base for the lane surface. I did order some flooring for that, and that is going to go on top of that half-inch OSB. So what's going to basically happen is we're going to have the gutter surface basically here. And then we're going to have the gutter's about 4.5 inches wide, and then we're going to have an inch left over here. We'll be able to screw in if we need to here, and then the 3/8 inch plywood, which will cover everything. And then starting right about here, we're going to have the half-inch plywood and then the flooring on top, and that's going to stretch all the way across to this spot right about here. And then you'll see I also have some sawdust I need to vacuum up at some point. So anyway, that's the plan today. So let's get going. So what we're going to do here is I've got the plywood out, and this is when I'm cutting the 3/8 inch plywood, and I'm using a high carbon steel blade. It's a finer cut one. It's a Bosch blade, and I'm just trying my best to make a nice straight line. It doesn't come out completely perfect, but it's fine. You'll notice that I've got it on a couple of sawhorses, and I've clamped a 2x6 spare one I had sitting around to the side and measured it out to make a fence. So right now I'm just basically just tracing on down towards the end of that. This is a 4-foot long cut. This is right up when it was a 4x4 sheet of plywood. And in this case, this is the 3/8 inch plywood. It's not terribly hard. It's just a matter of just having the patience to use a steady hand and making sure that you are very careful to go as straight as possible. A double fence is a good idea. I chose to use just a single one. I also have it on 2 sawhorses. I'll be perfectly honest, these are not the most stable sawhorses, so if you got something better, please use it. And also, you'll notice that towards the end, I really have to brace the fence here to make sure that it doesn't vibrate too much and doesn't throw me off the straight path. Do a pretty good job here of kind of holding on, but you'll notice right at the end, once I get to the end and make it to the spot there, everything's going to fall down right there. Here it comes. And it's vibrating, and I get it right there, and then boom, that hits right in the foot. So it didn't hurt that much, but it's okay. And then I just take it off, and here we go, taking that, and then repeat that cut a whole bunch more times. Okay, so we've got one more cut to make of the 3/8 inch plywood, so I've got that all set up. I'm decided I'm going to try to use my level as a fence this time, just to see what happens, see if it works, because it is a little bit lighter and a little less hazardous when the final cut happens. You'll notice that in that video I just played for you or just showed to you, the saw does wobble a lot, the wood does wobble a lot, so I know I need to brace it a little bit more, so I'm trying to keep it straight, but I also understand that if I cut this way a little bit, I can just sand it down or use my handsaw and touch it up a little bit if I need to. It hasn't come to that yet. I've got 3 sections down on the surface, and they all line up pretty well, so I'm looking forward to putting this last one on and then moving on to the half-inch plywood for the actual lane itself. All right, well, we're done for the weekend, but we made sure to come down and show you our progress on the lane so far with what we've got. We were making some positive steps, and we're almost ready to start working on the pit. Let's show you what we got. So I do apologize, I don't have an assembly video that we did, but basically here's kind of what we're looking at here. So if you look down this way, I'm going to have a seat so you get a nice steady camera. If you look down this way, you'll notice it's not quite, we're not quite level in a couple of spots. And the reason why we're not quite level in a couple of spots is because we haven't finished bolting it down completely on the back end. You'll notice where the tape measure is. We still have 2 more panels that we have to screw in. But we do have the 30-inch plywood screwed in place. And we also have on top of that 21-inch plywood, and we've screwed 2 of those panels down. And you'll notice that there are a couple of gaps, and those gaps are okay. And the reason why those gaps are okay is because on top of this panel, on top of this 1.5-inch plywood, it's not 1.5 inch plywood, we're going to be putting some maple laminate flooring on top that we're going to use as a lane surface. So this whole surface here, which is plywood, is going to be our base for that flooring. You'll notice that I've screwed in each of the things onto using 6 screws for the 21 inches, and I've used 8 screws for the 30-inch plywood. I went 3 down the side, 3 down the side, and then I did 1 in the middle underneath just to keep it on the bottom. This one here is a little bit thicker. I'm going to probably sand that down a little bit just to flush that out. And also all the way down here, as I said, I've got them in place, and I just have to screw them in. That one here is going to require a little bit of sanding as well, I think. So general idea, again, is what we're looking at here as far as dimensions. We've got 30 inches right here, and then we've got a 4.5-inch gutter, another 4.5-inch gutter, and then of course a 21-inch lane surface. For the most part, we did a pretty good job when it came to cutting the plywood. You'll notice we do have a couple of cuts that are not perfectly straight. What I tried to do is I tried to make the parallel cuts along this edge here, and then over here I allowed a little bit more room for error on this. But for a guy with a jigsaw, I think I did a pretty good job. Okay, so that's going to do it for us the next week or so, actually, because we got to wait for the flooring. But what I'm going to work on next is I'm going to be working on getting the pit installed over here. My plan for the pit is to do about a 9-inch gap between the back of the deck and the pin cushion, which I'm probably going to use a doormat or something, and I'm going to build a down slope right here with some plywood. I'll use some 2x2s or 2x1s to kind of frame that, and then have over here a little collection area for the pins. So that's the plan with that. So our bowling lane is looking pretty good, looking pretty strong. I'm looking forward to finishing up. All right, thanks for watching. Have a nice day.